Good morning, good morning, good morning. We thank God for this day, this opportunity that's been granted to us all. Happy New Year to everyone that I have not seen or heard from, or whatever case may be. Again, it's just a blessing to start this year off with this Men's to Ministry. And I want to go in a word of prayer so we can go ahead on and get our day started because God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. Father in heaven, we thank you this morning, God, for all things and everything, to give you honor, to give you glory, and to give you praise, because without you, Father, we can't do anything anyway. We ask for your directions and understanding on today's lesson, not just today's lesson, God, but the rest of our lives, that we continue to do what's right in your eyesight, because communication is the key to all things. And so, Father, give us wisdom, give us knowledge that we can go forth to these classes, God, and not just help ourselves, God, but build up others around us, because it's all about each one teach one. So we thank you for the opportunity, God, that Brother Guy has put together. So we ask you, God, to move on his behalf and keep him in your loving care. We do actually bless everyone on the line this morning, God. In Jesus' name do we pray, and we say amen. I use this scripture for a particular reason. I had to get an amplified version so we can kind of give a better understanding, as it says in Ephesians 4 and 15. But speak the truth in love, and in all things, both our speech and our lives, expressing his truth. Let us grow up in all things into him, follow his example, who is the head, Christ. Because we have to grow up. We have to learn to do things from a different perspective. We can't get caught in the same mundane routine because this is the way it's always been, because we have to learn to grow. And this Men to Ministry has blessed my spirit because it has pulled me out of a lot of shells that I was in. You may say, now you a pastor, how can you be in a shell? Simply because, hey, it is what it is. I've learned how to adjust, adapt, and overcome. Some days it's trying still, regardless of what the case may be. So I'm grateful for these classes. And Brother Guy seeing me to do it, seeing something to me I probably didn't see it myself. So it's a blessing. Verbal maturity is sufficient to communicate and articulate as a man. And I found this one says a mind map. And I may be repetitive on some things I might say, but when you begin to look at life, how we might have been taught as a youth, physically, we are men, and we know that we are men. But we have to understand we are creatures of habit. And sometimes we fall back in our habits, no matter how old we may be, how long we've been away from it. And we just find ourselves doing the same routine. And it's not good for us because it does not benefit us. And I'm victim number one. I fall back in some of my old habits about communication. Even though I know I'm a man, I know I can stand my ground, but I just fall in old habits. Sometimes I shy away from saying certain things to certain people. Sometimes my communication is not good. Sometimes incomplete. So this is thing I have to learn to work on, because I was taught sometime, as a man, you don't have to express yourself because you're a man. But it's not true. We all have to communicate. We all have to express ourselves in order to get the message across to the next person. Because being an introvert is not good. I was pretty shy as a kid. I wasn't in a shell, but I didn't associate with a lot of people. And sometimes that habit come back now where I don't associate with a lot of people, because everybody's not good for you, that I have learned. So I do keep that part of the physical part and that habit. Everybody's not good for you. Though they may say that we in the same boat, but everybody going in a different direction some kind of crazy way. Our emotions. What I've learned by our emotions, we have to learn how to manage them. Because sometimes we don't like to be told certain things by certain people because of who they are and who we think we are. Even though I'm a pastor, I don't know everything. I can't fix everything. I can't do everything. So I need somebody to help me. So I lay my little feelings down and say, okay, how can you help me to make the program better? Because yes, I'm the leader, but I'm only strong as those that are around me. So I need some help. I need somebody to help me manage my emotions, because I can't get caught in my feelings. I'm the pastor, so I'm supposed to have all the answers. No, I can't do that, because God used various people to help us along the way. Even though Moses was the leader, but he needed Joshua and her. He needed help. So we can't let our emotions get in the way of getting things done. Utilize the people that God has surrounded you by to get the program pushed forward. A prime example, I'm in Brunswick, don't know nobody in Brunswick, know nothing about Brunswick. So how can I go down and say, let me take charge when I don't know which way to go? So I need the locals to help me out. Those that go to the church, those have been there forever and a day, to help me navigate through this process. Tell me the people I need to go see and show me the people, place I need to go. I need that. That helps me manage my emotions because I can put the burden on my shoulder for no reason at all when I have people that can take care of everything. And then on the mental part, which is very crucial, we sometimes get in our feelings about who likes me, who does not like me, how they're going to receive me, will they receive me, why they don't ask me to do this, why I can't go there, why I can't say this. So I've learned in that facet of life as well. You can only go where God sends you. Now, some people can make a way for you to get there, but see, I only want to go where God designed for me to go. So therefore, I'm covered in spite of all things, because sometimes we can feel pressured where they never ask me to do anything. They always overlook me. And it's critical. It can cause you to fall, cause you deviate off the course, and just plainly just give up. So I've learned how to communicate it and to articulate as a man. Do I sometimes fail? Yes, I do. I stated earlier. Sometimes I just don't feel like being bothered with people. It may not be good to say, but I'm just telling the truth. Some days I don't feel like being bothered with people. Just leave me alone. Let me just go out here and look at the water at the pond. Just let me get my thoughts together. Does anybody want to share in the comments or thoughts on the mind map? Next slide. Why is it important to consider the mark of manhood or verbal maturity sufficient to communicate and articulate as a man? Why is it important? Can anybody answer that question? Why is it important? Why is it important? Does anybody want to expound on that real quick?
To help out here. When it comes to this mark of manhood, our verbal maturity, I'm gonna explain a few things that I know of that hinders us as men. And I'm talking about across the board. Our vocabulary, because we haven't, in many cases, worked on our vocabulary. We only have a small group of words that we always utilize. And especially outside of the church, in our communities, you hear even those brothers that curse a lot. They only have a few words they use.
Right.
So everything is this or that, or this person or that person, or this trait. And when they're put in different environments where maybe those words are not suitable, they don't have any other words to replace them with.
Mm-hmm.
So they can only curse.
Right.
And it's the same thing even in other places in our community. We don't have a large vocabulary. Another thing is, you covered it, but some of these also is our refusal to be verbal, which complicates communication because sometimes we are combative and confrontational and bullies. So when we can't articulate our point, sometimes we revert to the physical. I'm gonna make you, and maybe not a physical in fighting, but a more
Aggressive.
Forceful, aggressive. That's the term I'm looking for. There you go. We're more aggressive, and we're really trying to shut the other person's communication down. That's what
Right.
happens a lot.
Right.
You hear this a lot in our community, or you can recognize a lot in our community. We try to shut the conversation down. So my point is the last point or the only point that's heard, and become very frustrated, and because of that small vocabulary, all of these things leave us to being small-minded. In some scenarios that we find ourselves in communicating with others, sometimes we're very small-minded, and you can see that in men. Sometimes they're not exposed to enough or a lot, and it hinders us in our communication with others because we're so small-minded. And I think that's one thing that why we need to consider our verbal maturity, and that could be solved by increasing our vocabulary, increasing other things, of how we communicate. That's what I have, brother LeSure, Reverend LeSure.
That is so true, brother. Very, 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 very true. Because we are, I'm gonna cover it again. We get intimidated by certain people because we're not in our norm, so we're afraid to confront them about anything. Like you said, you know, we make a joke sometimes. I say, God understands all our language, our slang, our different rhetoric. He understands, but when you talk to certain people, you can't use certain rhetoric. You gotta talk to them on that level. And like you said, our vocabulary is so small, so we're intimidated by even talking. You don't even want to be in the same room because you feel embarrassed because I don't understand what they're saying. They're talking on my head. And I found preachers doing the same thing. They will preach over your head because they've educated themselves about certain things. But you got to understand, you got to know where you are and the people you're dealing with to not make them feel out of place, because it's easy to draw them when you talk to them on their level versus above their level. So we have to understand how to talk to people and when to talk to people. All that's important for is your body language, et cetera, et cetera. I'm gonna say it again in a minute, but that's a very good point because we don't like to get out of our norm. We're so used to our same little crowd we run with, so that's all we know. And so when we get out of our norm, we're out of place. And I don't want to be here, man. I don't like putting on a suit. I don't like dressing up. I don't like looking good. I don't throw my jeans on and go. That's the mindset and the way we dress. That's how you feel. You're out of your place when you have to put a suit on. Next slide.
Reverend LeSure,
Talk to me.
um, from this side of the coin, something that I've experienced with men in my profession and my family is that the unwillingness or inability to say what they mean,
I mean, what is that?
right? To really communicate what they mean has caused men. I've heard them say they don't feel included, so they feelings of exclusion, and they're misunderstood.
Yes, I understand.
And because of that, sometimes they feel rejected and isolated, and don't are not willing to put themselves out there or to be seen, because in the past when they've tried to communicate, they felt people didn't understand what they were saying, and sometimes that comes from what you all are talking about, lack of vocabulary or lack of practice and feedback on
Hmm?
saying what you mean,
I mean, what is that?
right? Versus saying something and people are supposed to be able to interpret what you mean from what you say.
Very true. So these are phases we go through in life because I wasn't taught how to really communicate with people, so I didn't understand a lot of things. So I had to start from ground zero and just learn the hard way per se. So it makes a difference in our lives, like you said, Pastor Harris. When we feel out of place, we don't associate with that kind of person or people. We neglect them. We avoid them at every cause because we don't feel, like I said, accepted. Like I said, even down to, like I said, state, even the way you dress. They feel like your suit is not expensive enough, so they don't want to deal with you. Say, I can't go in my little J.C. Penney suit on. You got your Steve Harvey suit on, and we shy away from it, even to that facet of our life. Next slide.
There might be somebody else. Anybody else got anything on that slide before we move forward?
I think, good morning, it's Preston Jones, Minister Jones. I think the communication is so important, and you have to be motivated by the message that you give. If it's something that people need to know, and then you can't articulate it, you can't explain it in a way that they would understand, that would motivate me to find a way to communicate. Sometimes I've been in situations where you're with people that were not literate. I hate to use that word, but you invite them to Sunday school and you ask them to read, and they say, well, I don't read. So what we have to do is find a way to get around that, to include them into the conversation, let them talk, let them explain things as we take baby steps through the lesson. I hate to say baby steps, but that's what it is. And it's more about getting your message to them. And I'm still learning myself, brother Reverend LeSure. We all are learning.
Forever learn.
Nobody never reached that stage of perfection yet.
Yeah.
So we feel what you're saying, and we try to encourage you to continue on.
Thank you, sir. That was the reason I chose this topic, because that hit me home, because I still have room to grow. I'm still trying to grow because I want to grow. Might not reach certain plateaus, but I'll be somewhere in the mix. Anybody else want to share before we move on?
Listening to you, Reverend LeSure, listening to everyone else, and we talk about vocabulary, we talk about articulation, but isn't the main part of communicating with someone is saying the way that they understand?
Sure.
Sometimes we use so much jargon and words we leave our audience behind. I always think it like when you go to the mechanic, he starts telling you what's wrong with your car. You're not a mechanic, you have no idea what he's talking about, but you pretend you do. And I think sometimes with us, we pretend we understand what someone is saying to us because we're too afraid to say, I don't. We're too afraid
Right.
to say, explain that to me. Get to the point where we make people feel comfortable enough and we're mature enough in our explanation and communication and articulation that they're not afraid to ask questions of what you're talking about. Help me understand. Help me. And I think that's the part that we leave out sometime in our communications with people, that we don't give them the opportunity to not understand. And everything is about an opportunity to understand and an opportunity to be helped. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. That was great. You're correct. Because that's why Jesus taught in parables. I talk to something that you can understand. And you're very right, because sometimes, like, you go to the doctor, maybe you use certain terms, like, what are you talking about, docs? I said, break it down so I can understand what you're saying. Because that word is, I'm lost. Because it helps us to understand what's going on in life, not go around still with a question mark in your head when you leave. Like, what are they talking about? What do you mean, gotta do this? What do you gotta do? But see, I'm glad you make the point, because sometimes we feel confrontational because when somebody asks us a question about what we just said, like, you don't understand what I mean? No, I don't. That's why I asked you, what are you trying to say? Because it's over my head. Well, you need to do this. No, just break it down to the lowest common denominator so we can all get an understanding. With all you're getting, get what? Understand. Because first of all, if I got to give you my money, you're going to explain everything to me, step by step, process, by whatever it is, because I'm paying you for a service. So therefore, I got all the right to ask you every question I want to ask you. Now, if you confrontation about me asking you a question, then pick up your grip and get out my house. That's what's got to be with me. I'll give you a prime example, and we're gonna move on. Guy come to the yard house one year and he wanted to put out some straw. This is probably about 7, 8 years ago. And he said, well, it's gonna cost you so much money to put straw over here. I said, break it all the way down to me so I can get understanding why you charge me this price. And he said, well, it's just better you pay me all at one time. I said, I'm gonna ask you one more time. Break it down and explain to me why you're gonna charge me this amount of money just to put some straw down. So in the back of my mind, he's trying to pay a bill by using me. So I don't really need your service, but you need my money. So I said, well, the best thing for you to do, just find exit stage left and go on about your business. Because you can't break it down to me how you come up with $600 for some straw in my yard, then you can't put no straw in my yard. If nobody else, we're gonna move to the next slide. Thank you so much, sir. That was good. That's a good point. Stages of personal growth, excuse me. And like the image says, the sleeping stage, not seeking personal growth, but then all of a sudden there's a wake up part. Journey from blaming others to deciding to take control of life. And that's a very vital step in all of our lives. Well, not I can say, but we have to learn to take control of our own life. Stop blaming others for the things we say or do. Well, if you hadn't said that to me, I wouldn't have done that to you. But we all have a point of accountability. We love to blame others for the decisions that we make or the things that we've done. We try to, well, if you hadn't came by the house, but we all got to be accountable. So it's my fault just when it's your fault that I did what I done and I said what I said. And we got to learn for. Yes, sir. No, I thought you were saying something.
No.
Okay. We got to learn how to make changes as well. Because as this world is changing, our younger people, I guess they like we were. We the smartest thing on earth at a particular time. Our parents didn't know nothing. So the younger kids nowadays don't know how to talk to nobody. It's all about texting. It's all about social media, but just face-to-face conversation, and you can't get it out of them. They shy away from talking. I try to explain to our children. I said, when somebody asks you a question, make a sentence into it. So therefore you have a little more social skills and you get used to talking to people. If I said, well, sir, I said, well, how you doing this morning? Good. I said, what is good? Say, I'm doing well this morning. You make a conversation out. So that way you open up yourself and you can talk and feel better about yourself. Because what's good? Good is anything. Good, I got up. Good, I'm eating, whatever. So I try to encourage them to learn how to talk because it makes a difference and explain yourself. So therefore, you don't leave no question marks. They said, Dad, I don't need no lecture when I ask you a question. I said, well, I'm going to cover every point. So therefore, there's no question mark in your head when you leave from in front of me. Every time I ask you a question, it's always a lecture. Why I got to do this? Why I got to do that? So my daughter asked me one day, she said, Dad, I want a tattoo. I said, give me the reason why you want a tattoo. Because I just want one. I said, that's not a good reason. Give me the purpose that it's going to serve. If you give me a good purpose, that's why it's going to serve you to have a tattoo, I'll get you one. But because I want it look good. I said, no, I need a purpose. Is it going to make you smarter? Is it going to put money in your pocket? What purpose is it going to serve for somebody to burn your arm or your leg? What purpose does it serve? I just want a tattoo, Dad. I see you still don't show me no purpose. Because it does not do anything for you. It takes away from you. Now we all got an opinion about certain things. I said, when you give me a reason why you want a tattoo, then I'll get you one. Me, I already know she ain't gonna come with a reason, so I had to worry about that. Then because he should have gave me a good reason. Well, now who gonna pay for it is the next thing. Acceptance. Learn to accept things we cannot change. And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, to accept some things that we cannot change. Because we figure that we can change the whole world by just spending time with people. And that's a good thought. You spend time with them, you talk with them, get to know them, you express certain views about certain things, but still, you can't change nobody. They got to want to change to be changed. So we got to learn how to accept it. We got to learn to meet people where they are so they can feel that we have compassion towards them. Because if I'm trying to get you to come up to my level and you just walked in the door, then you're gonna feel out of place the rest of your life. You're forcing me into doing something I'm not prepared for yet. So I gotta work with you, like this one brother said, step by step till we get to a certain level. Then we can go forward. We can go faster. But I can't walk through the door today and say, okay, now we're gonna do extra. No, you gotta teach me, show me, be the example that you want me to be. I gotta be the change that I want to see. Expansion. Helping others for their personal growth journey. And that's what this program is doing for me, helping me in my personal growth. I get out of school, off the stool to do nothing from shying away, forever learning. And the more you around people of different backgrounds, it helps you to understand life a whole lot better. You know, we sometimes feel out of place when we go around certain races because we don't understand their culture. And so, which is natural. But do we try to understand, or do we just stereotype everybody so when they said this person, that person, all in the same way? We can't be like that. Get to know your situation and your surroundings to understand that culture. If it ain't no more, looking up on YouTube or something, find out why they do what they do and why they say what they say. So I'm trying to grow so I can have a conversation with people. My children laugh from Daddy, you just talk to anybody sometimes. I said, well, because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So when I see a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I say, well, I like your team. You know, that's a conversation piece. That's an icebreaker. So we just talk for a few seconds. Might have never see him again. But we're able to just have a simple conversation about something. Give you the opportunity just to talk to somebody. And you never know what it may lead to from that day because you just open up and start a conversation. So that's a good way of doing things. Does anybody want to share any insight on this personal growth?
Agree with you, Reverend Sure. I think it's important to connect with the people that you're talking to, like you mentioned, your son. If he knows that you care about him and you care about the outcome, he's more apt to listen. But if he feels like you're lecturing, he turns a deaf ear to you. So that's a good point. Same way with congregations, if they feel comfortable enough to open up, they'll eventually come around and let you know what they're thinking, what they want, what they don't want.
True.
But if they feel like they can't trust you as a pastor, they don't know you, they don't think that you care about them, then they won't open up.
Very good point. You know, I stated that one day. I said, you know, people don't care how much you know; they want to know how much you care, and that's very vital because all you come in as a dictator. We're gonna X, Y, and Z. That's all we're gonna do. And you're right. People shy away from you, but you come out with that outstretched arm and say, okay, I'm here for you because we got to make this thing happen. So how can I be a servant unto you? Because I'm here to serve. That's my position, to be a servant to you, to make sure you have all that God can give you, all that you may need. And that's a good point because sometimes as pastors or preachers, however you want to label them, they think it's their stuff. It's their program. And I oftentimes tell people, I said, this is not my church. I said, you ain't my people. I said, y'all belong to God. I'm just asked to pastor you. I can't say, y'all my people. Y'all my members. I said, no, I don't use those terms. If I start using that single stuff like you belong to me and I'm your, And that's another thing I learned for is communication. It's a small thing, but it's funny, but it's not funny. You know, I'm thinking, well, I'm the pastor of the church, so I'm everybody's pastor. I find out that's not true. Everybody don't accept you as being the new pastor, the new kid on the block. Just some of them do, some of them don't, and some of them don't even care. So I had to learn that too. You know, I come to pastor the people that want to be pastor. I got to meet the other ones where they at. So I had to learn it. I had to be honest with myself. You know, everybody's not going to like you because you're the pastor. Some of them don't care because they love the previous pastor more than they know it in themselves. And so that's a battle you got to fight with communication. Sometimes you get called the previous pastor's name before you forget they learn your name right. Excuse
me. Pastor LeSure, in looking at your stages of personal growth, I think about while we're on our journey and someone else is on theirs. We have to remember that it's not an escalator. It's not you hop on and you go straight up each step.
Right.
That our journey has a lot of forward steps, but it has backward steps. It has side steps. It's almost like you're doing a cha-cha slide. You up, you back move, you to the left, you to the right. And once we understand that our journey is not going to be just straight, it's going to be a lot of wiggly lines before you start making steps, and that we accept that in
Right.
ourselves, but we accept that in other people, that our journey has to be difficult. It has to be obstacles. There has to be things in our way. There has to be things that we backslide for. So looking at your stages of personal growth, I understand each one, and it's hard to help others when you think your journey is not going the way it's supposed to go, that you're not making forward steps. We have to allow ourselves to make those little back and forth movements, and the back and the forward and the side to side, and understand it's going to be that way.
That's a very good point, sir. Very good point. Because, like I said, you expect everybody to get on the train. We're gonna ride the train. Some of them, that's no. I'm getting off at the next stop. No, I ain't getting on. Where you not getting on? I'm not riding the train. I'm not getting on. And so you take out the time and say, okay, why are you not getting on the train? I just want to ride the train. So now you got a situation where you lose one or say the 99. And that's good, because we have to understand the situation and the present time that we're in, because it's always going to be something to change the course of action. Always going to be something. So if you go in there with a closed mind and saying it's my way or the highway, then you won't be there long. You won't have nobody to talk to. So you go in and say, okay, like you said, because I had to talk to myself sometimes. Y'all probably don't do that. I had to talk to myself sometimes and say, now, God, where the folks at? They ain't showing up for church today. But God gave me a revelation years ago. Said I send those that need to be there for this Sunday. So that keeps my mind stable. Because you figure it's Sunday, don't y'all love the Lord? You ought to be in church Sunday morning. But my perspective is way different than your perspective. You may still just be a Sunday morning Christian, and so you come when you want to come. So I'm different. My mindset, hey, let's go to church, man. Sunday, it's Sunday. Let's go praise the Lord. And you like, well, I get there tomorrow, next Sunday. I'm not gonna come there this Sunday. So that's a good point. We gonna go through this phase where we're gonna hit some big ruts in the road, blow out the front end. Then we start to get it fixed up. We start all over again. And that's good, because every time we go through a situation, it teaches us how to deal with it when it come back up again. Because when you first start doing this thing for us, talking to people, you can't say certain things to certain people. You cut the food with this one on the left, but you can't cut the food with the one on the right. You can't use certain little cliches to certain people on the left and certain people on the right, because everybody's different. So once you understand who you're talking to, you got to keep it right there. Because when you start deviating, they're like, what are you talking about? See, your little joke might have worked with Johnny, but it won't work with Bob. It won't work with Bob. Bob don't like jokes like that. Bob is strict. He don't care about all that being happy. He's just strictly business. So when you go to Bob, you strictly business. You go to Johnny, you can cut up a little bit, because you got to adjust and adapt and overcome. That's a good point. Anybody else want to share their thoughts on this slide?
You mentioned expansion.
Yes,
and
sir.
I would also add exposure to
Good
this
point.
growth. I grew up down here in South Georgia, and all the way through school, I knew nothing but black people and white people. That was it. I never met an Hispanic person. We had one transfer student. I don't even know she was from Europe. And then when I went in the military, of course, I met people from all around the world and went to different cultures. And we normally approach things from a ethnocentric view, meaning that
Everything.
we are the center of the world. Our culture, who I am, I'm the center of the world. If I see somebody doing something I wouldn't do, it's wrong. I don't understand what other people are doing, and we have to move away from that. And that's something that everybody has. Every culture has that.
Mm-hmm.
And I give you a great example of that. Growing up, the only concept of Mexican people I knew was that they were lazy. And I got that from, you would look at cartoons and everything, and the Mexican guy sleep under the big sombrero. He is lazy. And for sure, we know right now that Mexicans are not lazy.
Mm-mm.
But when we understand the culture, and I work with a lot of Hispanic guys right now, and when it's hot outside in the middle of the summer, they take a siesta. They break. They're not going to fix a roof at 12 o'clock in August because it's too hot.
True.
And that's what they do. And it makes a lot of sense. But we looked at it from a ethnocentric view. And so a part of our communication is also take ourselves out the center. And the growth is listening and understanding other people's point of view. And they had a great point, you know. Instead of working 9 to 5, take a break in the middle of the day and come back late in the afternoon when it was cool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the things that can help us on this growth. Um, Many other people probably had different experiences. I know people up north grew up with different cultures up in New York and New Jersey and other places. But you have to imagine until 18 years old, I had never met or never spoke to anybody with white people and black people. That was it. Thank
Same
you.
way. Same way with me. Military exposed me to a lot of things. A lot of things. But it was good to build my social character up because the more you know, the better you are. You know, like I said, we go off of what's been projected to us. You know, even though it may have some truth to it. Why y'all black folks always late? Y'all be late to your own funeral. Why y'all always late? And so we watching the show and they were saying it and we just fell out laughing because we wait to the last minute to go somewhere. Like time is gonna stop for us to get there on time. But even that same facet, everybody in every community, I mean culture, they had the same problem. Being late, being lazy, being whatever case may be. It's just not one race. It's everybody. We just happen to see a couple of them from different races. So that's a very good point. The more you expose, the better you are. You know, it brings you knowledge and understanding. So we won't prejudge folks before we get to really know who people are. And that's what's wrong with the world. We already got a prejudice towards people because of their race. And that's not good to do. We never give a person a chance to show me who they are. And sometimes people say, well, why are you talking to that guy? You know that guy is funny. I say he's still a person regardless of what. He needs somebody to talk to. That don't make me less than. It makes me more than because see, I'm not gonna push him away because of his lifestyle or her lifestyle. They still a person. They respect me. I respect them. I don't like what they do. They may not like what I do, but I give them that respect. I'm not gonna sit there and throw little snide remarks at you about you being gay. I'm not gonna do that. That's not right. Excuse me. Anybody else want to say something about the slide before we move on? Next slide. How can we develop the mark of manhood of verbal maturity sufficient to communicate and articulate as a man? How can we do that? How can we do? Can anybody just tell me real quick, in your own opinion, how can we do that? How can we do that? How can we develop the mark of manhood? How can we make it better?
Reverend LeSure, it's
Yes,
me
sir.
again, Mr.
That's good.
John.
Keep on
Uh,
talking.
what helped me is when I go into a situation, maybe a new church or a new job or on another committee, I try to see myself as a team player,
Hmm.
or sometimes you have to see yourself as a coach.
Right.
And that lets people know that we're all working together. If you compare it to a basketball team, um, the GOAT for all time, Michael Jordan, he never won a game by himself. He's a great player, the top player, but he didn't win the game by himself. He had to have a team around him
Hmm.
and a coach who would oversee the team. So I try to let people know that we're in this together. Uh,
Right.
and I may be assigned as a shepherd. I may be assigned as a whatever I'm there for, but we are in this together. And I let them know that I expect their input. I expect their participation. I expect them to speak out when something is wrong. Uh, and that sort of helps me to see it in
That's
that
good.
perspective.
That's good.
Um, I, I'm talking too much today, but
Oh,
I
sir.
like this topic. Well, I think one of the first things that we have to start doing is listen. If we don't listen first, we'll never be able to communicate and articulate our thoughts because we haven't listened to the other person's side of things or where they are. We
Right.
must start off with having a listening ear. I'm a counselor by trade, and as a counselor, is to be a good listener. Is
Listener.
to
Right.
sit there and listen to what the people are telling you, then take what they tell you and give it back to them, not just restating what they told you. And that way, the person know that you heard them. And
You
when
heard him.
people
Mhm.
understand that you hear them, they're more open to listen to what you have to say because they know that you care about what they said. So I think one of the first uh, marks of developing verbal maturity is being a good listener, to being open to what other people have to say.
You nailed it. You nailed it. You're correct. Because some people look right in your face and they say, have not heard one word you said. Because I don't know the term you use, but they trying to come in with an answer while you talking to come in with an answer and have not heard what you say. They not even giving your conversation a chance. They already trying to formulate an answer in their mind. And that's very good because it shows me in respect that you have enough concern to listen to what I got to say. Whether you like what I'm saying about you or about something else, you're willing to at least listen to me. Listen to me. And that's important. Be a good listener. Yes, sir. That's good. That is good. Very good. Thank you so much for that. That's good. No, you're not talking too much. We need you to talk. We need you to talk. Anybody else?
One of the other things we have to do is we have to have a desire to improve. We have to have a desire and be intentional about improving. If we don't want to, we're not going to do it.
Mm-mm.
And those around us that we're trying to help, they have to want it also.
Right.
You mentioned that so we have to have that personal desire and then that group desire and then a mentoring desire to help others. And Reverend LeSure, you mentioned that with your children, instead of allowing them to answer you with one word or a simple answer, you're making them articulate. And we see that in our youth. They don't articulate well. They don't explain well, and they get frustrated when you ask questions. So I think that helps us. And I think it was Reverend Jones that said something about the illiteracy in our community. And
Mm-hmm.
when we're required to read, or people are required to articulate, we have to find ways around allowing them to still speak, even if they're illiterate.
Right.
That's one thing that shies a lot of people, especially men, away from Sunday school, because our Sunday school normally was set up. You read this paragraph, I read this paragraph, and the next person read the other paragraph. If you can't read, you're not going to come to Sunday school.
True. True.
So that desire and to be intentional and help others in the articulation, help them, give them forms. One thing I liked about growing up in the Methodist church is, we had to do Easter speeches. We had to do things where we had to stand up in front of the church. I see it sometimes. We had to do the announcements. We had to, stand up and read something every once in a while. We always got that opportunity and to do things like that. So that's something we need to do is put back in place places where, especially our youth and younger people are people coming into church can express themselves in a verbal manner.
Right. Right. Very true. Excuse me. Also, we watched a movie the other week called The Forge. So a young guy was dealing with the fact, his father left him, he's of age, and mom said, you're going to go, so you don't want to go to college, you're going to get you a job because you're not going to sit around and play video games and shoot ball all day long. Long story short, he met the CEO of a company, and so he kind of mentored him. And so he said, when you talk to somebody, you look at them straight in the eye and you say, hello, my name is so-and-so, so-and-so. How can I help you today? He mentored him in such a strategic way that he didn't know what was going on in his life. All his mama said, I know you've changed. Your attitude has changed, because he had a bad attitude. Because he felt like people couldn't understand him because of what he was dealing with in his personal life. And so that's how people, when they're dealing with certain things, they throw it off on the person they come in contact with. So hurting people hurt people. So he was hurt. So it didn't matter how he talked to people or nothing. He went into the coffee shop because he saw a beautiful young lady. So her father came out and said, son, if you're not going to buy coffee, you need to leave my shop. And, he went off on the man. But the movie trade, he go back a year later and said, sir, I apologize for how I talked to you, that was disrespectful. But he had to learn these things, how you communicate. The man was protecting his daughter's interests, but all he felt like the man was just bullying him because his father wasn't around. So we go through these things of how we come about talking to people, because what our life has been dictated to us. Like I said, hurting people hurt people. So if you don't like me, I don't like you. If you don't do what I say, I don't want to do what you say. So we have to learn how to do these things. How do we do this? We have to practice on how to accept constructive criticism, how to accept rejection, how to accept the fact everybody's not going to be on board with you, no matter how good you are. And I like the fact how you stated about the basketball team. Yeah, Michael Jordan hit 63 points on Boston in the playoff, but they still lost the series. So it just goes in history. He hit 63 points. But when he won 6 rings, that overshadowed his 63 points because his team, they communicated, they worked together to win 3 back-to-back 2 different times. That's communication and teamwork, because it takes all of us to make teamwork, the dream work. Teamwork make the dream work. There's no I in team. We have to get this thing together. So when you start including people, not excluding them, that grows strength, that grows trust, that grows understanding. Say, hey, we need each other, regardless of what. Everybody plays a part in success, not just for me, everybody, because I can't do it unless you show up. I oftentimes, especially the people I pastor, I need you just as much as you need me. We need each other, because just because I'm the pastor, I can't preach to myself. I need somebody to preach to. So we work on the fact of making sure everybody's included to a certain degree, because some people, hey, they don't want to go, they can't go. We can't make them go. Can you show me the slide, brother Harry?
LeSure.
Yes, sir.
This brother Alexander here. Just I guess got a point, but something you said. One question I have is, I call it this buy-in. Me being for some, I guess I call it seeing me convert many years ago. But the question I have is, most churches you go to are groups or what's called locally or family oriented. And so normally when you get what you call convert or someone that's considered a stranger that comes in, sometimes your ideas are not heard because we never done it that way before. And
True.
so not having the buy-in belief, I'm wondering, are we considered judge? Are we judged prior to us even open our mouth?
In some cases, you're right, because if you're not a local, you're not a norm, people they discount you. You can come in with 5,000 good ideas, and they'll listen to 400, and they'll listen to all of them, but they won't give you no credit for none of them because it didn't come from them. I've seen that in churches. You said a family. I use the plane where it just clicks in the church. They just got a little social group. If it didn't come from us, it didn't happen. It's not gonna happen because we run this church. My grandma bought a pew, so we own the church, et cetera, et cetera. And those are things we deal with, because people bring great ideas, but it gets shot down because it didn't come from one of it didn't come internally, as they may say. And you're very right. We get prejudged. We get kicked to the curb because, well, they come in trying to change things. No, I just see fresh eyes, see different things. I see where we can improve and do better. And I have a specialty in this field, so allow me to put my specialty to work, and we can grow some things. Well, I don't see why we got to do it, because we need to grow. That's why. If it's not working, then you need to fix it. But if it's working, we can tweak it and make it even better if you're open to it. And that's where I try to explain to people, stay open-minded to certain things. Don't be so closed-minded because you come up with it. Everything that somebody does nowadays is piggyback off of. Everybody. You take Wendy with the big baggy bag. Big bag, what do they call it? The little $5-6 meal. McDonald's picked it up for a season. They piggybacked off of it. So we need each other to make things grow and be enhanced because you got fresh eyes, and we did it in our last church and it grew and we had great success with it. Well, you don't understand. We down here in South, the Southern folks don't do certain things because you never gave them a chance to do it. You never gave them a chance to do it. Yes, sir. You're right. We get shot down sometimes. We get shot down a lot of times.
Sure, on that topic that Brother Alexander brought up, as it aligns with this question of how.
Mm-hmm.
How can we develop verbal maturity, and how can we develop this mark of manhood? I think that one thing that could be helpful is we can create different environments, even in a church in which Brother Alexander explained, which is all of our churches. Most of our churches have cliques and have those strongholds. But one thing that I see that's also available in our church is they don't care about you doing something differently as long as they ain't got to do nothing. As long as they don't have to change. As long as they ain't got to lift a pen or a broom or nothing to do anything in it, they don't care if you do it. So even with us trying to establish ministry to men groups, most of them don't care as long as they don't have to do nothing.
True, very true.
So we can create different environments and where we filter out those negative behaviors and sometimes you can't get that out of that church. But if they allow you to do a ministry to men group and bring new people in and growth, the other thing is they don't want to be left out. When they see growth happening, when they see something going on, when they see something positive happen, they don't want to be, they have that fear of being left out. So Brother Alexander, that's one thing that we can do. And you're correct, really correct. That is a situation that happens in too many of our, not just churches, our communities, even our families. A new person is married into the family. They didn't accept them as a family member. Sometimes it takes a while, you know? So thank you for that comment, Brother Alexander.
Yes, sir.
Sir, that's a good point. Very good point. Does anybody else want to chime in real quick?
I agree with that. We gotta look at ourselves and not really judge, but to evaluate our perspective as we interact with others. Listening is important. I agree with that. That's the Ministry 101. Listen and see what they're saying and see how we fit into the equation. I like what you said. The boat won't leave the dock or the bus won't take off until everybody's on board. There's no need of going down the road by yourself. So you got to get everybody on board. And the way to do that is let them know we're a team. We got to go together. We got a task to complete. We've got a victory to win, but we can't do it by ourselves.
Very true. Very true. Next slide, Brother Harris. Excuse me. Just some key look points on improving communication skills, and I like the very first one: understanding emotions and avoiding interruptions and clarifying questions when listening. We got to understand everybody's have different points of views on a lot of things. So we just can't go in there where everybody's gonna be happy. No, some people gonna be frustrated, some people gonna be sad. So we got to be open with it, just understanding emotion. And you have to watch people body language. That tells a lot about how they feeling about that question or that day. You know, I have to joke with my kids. I said, see, I'm old school. I want to talk to you face to face so I can watch your body language. See if you look me in my face and tell me what you're telling me. So y'all texting folks, you can't get a clear understanding about everything unless they put it in caps. Then you know they're yelling at you. But other than that, I like to see what's going on with you. Use simple language, organize thoughts, and consider the audience. That's very important. You can't talk to a second grader on a 12th grade level. You got to be where the people are. Help them understand where you're trying to go and make sure you get your point across. I'm not going to read all of them, just stop. And like I said, with number 5, maintain eye contact, open body language, align cues with your message. Sometimes you got to just understand if people receiving you because you're talking too long or you're talking too slow or you're talking over the head. Watch the body language. It makes a difference. The last one, I'm going to say, maintain posture, purposeful gestures, and positive self-talk. If you start slouching, that show you're not interested. You don't got tired. So your posture, everything, like I said again, your body language tells your story of how you really feeling in this moment. If you got, well, yeah, I think we can do that. That means you're not in tune. You're not in tune. You find folks sitting in the congregation out of tune. They looking on the phone, but get head down. You think they meditate, but they sleep or on their phone trying to figure out what they're gonna do next. But it's just life. Next one, brother Harris.
Two other of your communication skills. Number 3, I think that this form that we're utilizing, and for sure those who were around at the beginning, you can understand that for us to facilitate small group ministry, that there are certain things that we have to do. And we can see how important number 3 is. Key points and outline, articulate your questions and practice in confidence. Being prepared when you're getting ready to do a session, a counseling session with somebody, trying to mentor young men or somebody, you're getting ready to address a problem in the church, a problem in your family, to outline, so that the conversation doesn't go everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can deal with the key points. And real quickly, number 7, we sort of discussed this a little bit, but develop self-awareness and empathy. And empathy, most of our churches, a lot of our churches, let me say that, a lot of our churches are in communities that are struggling with all the disparities of life. We talked about illiteracy. There's other issues that are prominent in our communities that we minister in: alcoholism, drugs, unemployment, poverty, low self-esteem, and we can go on and on. And while we want to elevate people, we don't want to put ourselves on the pedestal that we're better than them, or we're talking down to them, or we don't have no empathy that, the brother is just out of jail and can't find a job and everything is against him. Not that we sit there and let him stay there, but we do have to have empathy when we're talking to people who have fallen down. So I think that's one thing that can help us, and not be the church where you got to have it all right.
Right.
That's how a lot of our people in our community look at us. We can't go to that church because we don't drive the right car, dress the right way, and live in the right house, or anything like that. So we have to be open and empathetic to people, the community that we are positioned to serve in most cases. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good points. Good point. We're going to expedite it a little bit. Next slide, brother Harris, please, sir. What is the effect and results that we seek to achieve by developing the mark of manhood or verbal maturity sufficient to communicate and articulate as a man. Next slide. This picture, I have this image is we have, like we stated earlier, we got to learn how to talk to different people, not just our own people, different genders, different cultures of people, because we got to be diverse. We just can't stick with our neighborhood, and that's the only people we know how to talk to, the only people we know how to socialize with, the only people we get along with. We got to be able to mingle with any and everybody that's possible. Because that's why we're so closed-minded in so many situations, because I don't deal with the north side of town, I don't deal with the west side of town, east side. We got to deal with people no matter where we go, different races, different backgrounds. It doesn't matter. Like you said, Brother Harris, they might have just got out of being incarcerated, but guess what? They're still a person that could probably help you in some phase of life. Just because you're an ex-con don't mean that you can't help somebody. You just made a mistake and got caught. That's all it is. Because if the truth be told, a lot of us probably should have been locked up for things we done. But by God's grace, and being confident when you talk, when you deliver your message, because back into your body language. Sometimes I catch myself talking with my hand, but that's just what I do. But I've learned, certain times you can't talk with your hand because that's just not appropriate. When I used to go to the promotion board in the military, they tell you put your hands on your knees, on your lap towards your knees, and you got to sit there and sit upright, and there's no jumping around. You got to sit erect the whole time. And then my palm is real sweat on my pants, so it's just a funny sight. But anyway, you got to be confident in yourself when you deliver your message. I've grown to that. When I first started preaching, I would look at an object above the people's head when I would preach, because if I saw their faces, I'd be like, oh, not today. Because, some folks in there laughing, some folks in there yawning, some folks like, when you going to have them get through, man, I'm ready to go home. So if you see all this going on, that messes with your thought pattern. So I learned to just look above the head just a little bit and say what I got to say and sit down. But I got to be confident in what I say in the same process. Anybody want to share anything before we go to the next slide?
I think that one of the other results that we're seeking is cultural transformation.
Okay.
Our culture, and like I said, where we're most positioned to serve, we are seeking this maturity in this level. We're seeking to have our children be better communicators. We're seeking to have better communication inside of our church, like Brother Alexander articulated earlier. We are seeking, and the result we're looking at is to be better, to mature, increase our vocabulary, increase our understanding, increase our listening. That's the goal. That's one of the other goals. And create environments where growth is, and communication is possible. When a person comes at me and they're very angry and fussing and fighting, I can't even hear or listen to them, because all I can feel is their anger and they shut me out. So if that's our church, well, we're always confrontational. If that's the environment, our family environment, our community environment, we're locked out of the communication process. So I think that one of the things we're looking in this mark of manhood is to mature, to become better, to grow. Thank you, brother.
Good points. Very good points. Thank you so much for that. Our last slide, please, sir. Another thing we're looking to accomplish: value, trust, loyalty, growth, success, and good relationships. Because communication is the key. Sometimes you can't trust what people say. So you build that trust, you got loyalty. You begin to grow, you succeed, you got a good relationship. Communication is the key. And again, I drop the ball sometimes. Because like you said, Brother Harris, sometimes people approach you a certain way, in a certain tone of voice. I said, they ain't gonna be the day. Then I just do without, because I'm not in the mood. But sometimes you got to press your way through, regardless of how they may talk to you, how they may look at you, whatever their reaction is. And say, I got to get what I got to get, and I got to go. But I won't be back. Trust me. So that's how we have to do it. The communication part is very valuable for everybody's life, so there won't be no misunderstanding. If you can just relay it out, just plain and simple. You know, like I said earlier, when we answer a person, give them all your thoughts, not just, okay, I'll do it. So sometimes I ask people, did you hear what I said? Now repeat it to me. So if you repeat what I said, then you will listen to me. So that calls value, the trust, the loyalty, the growth, success, and good relationship. Because a lot of people, relationships are destroyed because of bad or no communication at all. And it destroyed a lot of people. That's part of your marriage problem because there's no communication. That wraps it up for me, Brother Harris. I appreciate you today. Website communication. Let somebody else want to shed a little light on something else. That's all I have for you.
I got one last word, Reverend. I'm gonna go to the Bible on it. The scripture says, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." So a lot of times we prepare. For instance, I can prepare a sermon and spend a whole week putting it in words on a manuscript, and I take that manuscript to church and try to present it to the people. And the Lord will say, "This is not what I want you to say." It's the last minute, you have to go from the heart when
From
you're
the heart.
speaking to
That's
people.
good. That's right.
And so that's part of it, the communication and articulation we got to have. It's got to start. If you don't feel it, no matter
Don't
how
deal.
much you practice, and no matter how much you prepare, it comes off as being not authentic. So you got to have it in the heart when you're communicating with people, because people, although some of them are not educated on the same level, they're
That's good.
still smart. They know when you are sincere or authentic in your thoughts and what you're saying. So that's what I try to be, and let them know that we're in this together. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Here's where I thank you for your input because it helps all of us to grow and to know that we all have some good insight and some improvement that we all need, because I need to grow day in and day out because I have not arrived and I don't think I will arrive because I want to learn more and more. I oftentimes say when you stop learning, you start dying. That's my little cliche because we should be forever learning. You know, don't get to a point where you know everything because people stop trying to show you things when you think you know everything. I learned this too, and I'm let you go. Even if I know what you're talking about, if I even wrote it down, wrote the book, I'm still gonna listen to what you got to say because that's only fair. Because you don't know how it may affect your life by not listening to you. Well, I already know that, so that means from this point on, you're not gonna share nothing with me. Reb, I see that snake behind your head, but I figure you knew it was back there, so I ain't said nothing to you. You know, we fishing. You see this? You just know that snake hanging out the tree behind your head. Well, you say you know everything, so I had no reason to tell you. So it's good to just learn snakes early. Learn to listen. Just learn to listen. I don't care if you're talking about the ABCs 1, 2, 3. I'm sit there and be attentive. So yes, sir, I like that. Yes, good. I appreciate that. So I gave you that much respect. So that has a good relationship. Reb, listen to me. He don't never listen to me because you ain't talking about nothing. That's why I don't listen to you. But anyway, thank God for you, Brother Harris. It's in your hands.
Well, I know right now not to go fishing with you. Hey, we want to thank you and Reverend LeSure on our very first series. You gave the first session, and you mentioned something in there before I move from the slide. You said that when we go to these big meetings and conferences and stuff, that we see each other, but we don't know each other. And even the communication off of these sessions that we have online, now we get to hear each other, know each other, and when we go places, at least we have a relationship, and we're not just looking at each other across the room. That brother's from over here, that brother's from over there, and I've never
Right.
talked to him. So that's one thing. I mean, I know Brother Lanham was on that call. I think Brother Roberts was on that call. And at least now when we go places, we have a connection. So I want to thank you. Anybody else before we move on and close out here? Anybody else?
Father in heaven, we're so grateful for this beautiful day you've given us this day in January of 2025. We thank you so much for all the men that participated. We continue to pray, God, for our wisdom, our knowledge, and our understanding, for clarity upon all things. Keep us, God, from day to day as we go about doing your will and about your business. We thank you for all the opportunities. Let us be supportive to one another. Let's, God, continue to communicate because we love you and we love the people we have to serve. We ask all these things in Jesus' name, and we say amen.